What's the good word, y'all? Welcome to New York Jets Syndicate channel. It's your boy DKB here. And there was some pretty breaking news that came out a couple of days ago, I believe now anyways. And I don't think it got much fanfare on our side. Tyreek Hill ended up mentioning at the end of his Dolphins contract in 2025, I believe he plans on officially retiring. That'll put him at about 10 years in the league. He wants to go on, be able to pursue some other business adventures. I think he cited things like gaming, and a couple other random things in there. But the big news is, I think when you go back and kind of take a look at last offseason, missing out on Tyreek Hill was definitely a bruise to the ego, but I think that's necessarily all it was. From a team building perspective, everybody understood if we hit on a young wide receiver, that was going to be extremely beneficial. We're going to get them for 5 years, an extremely cheap contract before we have to dole out big money. And, in comparison to Tyreek Hill, you're talking about in general what we expected to be quite a chunk of change over the course of the next couple of years, and potentially if we wanted to re-up him on a contract as well, you're talking 20+ million for maybe a few extra years. So at best in my head, I was figuring maybe we're looking at 5 years of Tyreek Hill, right? And that was an extremely nice projection, but all in all, actually, Tyreek Hill his contract was set up pretty nicely, right? At least in comparison to the first couple years. You're talking about cap hits of 6.5 million in 2023, 12.8 million. Excuse me, 6.5 million in 2022. 12.8 million in 2023. It's 2024 and 2025 where things go crazy and you start talking about 31+ million on the books for him. So maybe they look to unload him before then. I don't know if he's kind of considered that, but still, I mean, even from a production standpoint, I think Garrett Wilson is essentially kind of in that range. I think Tyreek Hill is kind of a player of his own caliber for sure, just based on what his speed allows him to do and how it can be utilized. But Garrett Wilson comes in and immediately demonstrates that he has number one potential. And, on the season as a whole, Tyreek Hill ends up making out with 100 and I want to say it's 170 targets on the season. Garrett Wilson not too far away at 147. Obviously, the yardage is much different. 1,710 yards for Tyreek Hill, just over 1,100 for Garrett, and then he's able to put on 7 touchdowns on the board as opposed to Garrett Wilson's 4. But you see two different players, not necessarily in the same mold. Garrett Wilson is quick. Tyreek Hill's a different element of speed, but you see both of these guys who are able to essentially take over games in and of themselves, right? Yeah, we've seen Garrett Wilson essentially be relied upon heavily, especially once Brees Hall went down, to manufacture offense for this team. Defenses across the NFL knew Garrett Wilson was going to be getting the ball, and he was still able to make out and do damage on a weekly basis, and not being limited. Keep in mind, his numbers look even worse compared to the quarterback play that we're talking about. Only a 56.5% catch rate. Tyreek Hill was in the 70s, for example. So you're talking about a lot of meat left on the bone still in a season for Garrett Wilson. A lot of targets that should have been there for him that wasn't. Catchable passes that were extremely off target when Zach Wilson was in. Guys like Chris Streveler that didn't necessarily have the arm to be able to attack and do different things like that. And then Mike White, who had the health concerns. So I think this worked out very, very well for the New York Jets. I mean, we could still be talking about Garrett Wilson in 2030 as opposed to Tyreek Hill going on to whatever gaming company he's looking to kind of get manufactured and kicked off the books. But let me know where you guys sit on this. Do you still think that maybe we would have been pushed into the postseason with a guy like Tyreek Hill as opposed to some of the rookie growing pains we've seen out of Garrett Wilson? Or will you take the rookie season we've seen and the leaps and bounds we still expect him to take? And of course, we expect him to be a long-term pillar for this franchise. I don't know. I'm sold. I think Garrett Wilson definitely ended up being the answer for us. And to know that we could see him for a decade in a Jets uniform is, icing on the cake. So again, let me know what your thoughts are. I'll catch you guys again. Peace.